We are back. Another episode of the Golden View podcast. It is Wednesday, April 22nd, right around 7 p.m. And we're here with Brad Challoner to preview the upcoming slate of NLL games this weekend. And I think, Brad, before we bring you in, say, how are you? Where are we starting with Vancouver and Halifax?
We have to start on the Friday night, or we have to start with our own backyard. I don't think there's another place to start.
Right. And so, obviously, for those who don't know you, TSN color commentator, coaches calls, and you also work on radio in Victoria.
Yeah, Virgin Radio Victoria and CFAX 1070. But this weekend is the full NLL on TSN hat as we invade Vancouver on Friday night.
That's going to be great. So let's just get right into that Halifax game, because I actually had some notes from the last Halifax game. And I mentioned this to Brett Miskey, and I was talking to somebody about this last night. The Warriors sometimes, or I think they struggle. I shouldn't say sometimes. I think they struggle at home with starts. And I think that could be a concern for this game. I had a note here in the second quarter of that last game. I know it's a regular season game. Halifax makes it 4-1 in the second quarter.
Yeah, and we were talking to Matt Beers this week and head coach Kurt Milowski, and like they've kind of made it's almost an ongoing joke in the locker room that Del Bianco is going to let in the first shot, let in the first goal at home for some reason. I don't know why. It's tough starts, but you're right. I think that they climbed out of it last time, but they were lucky to climb out of it last time. And in a playoff game, there's nothing guaranteed, especially when you're going against the best face-off man in the league in Jake Withers. They do not want to get behind. Yeah, it's lacrosse, one goal in the first shot. You're going to be able to bounce back 9 times out of 10. But I think a strong start is a really good emphasis for this team. And I think that they penciled that Friday night game in to know that it's going to be a quick turnaround for Halifax and come across the country. And I know that they've got guys arriving as early as today, Wednesday, to prepare for this lacrosse game and get kind of acclimatized. Like, it's spring here. We're sweating right now. It's been
no kidding.
Beautiful week. So these guys are settling in. But yeah, I think talking to the team this week, a hot start is imperative. And yeah, it is lacrosse. And you think, hey, the first goal, big deal. We give that one up. But in a playoff game, that might be the difference maker. So I know they definitely don't want to allow that first one this weekend.
Yeah, and that's one thing that's good. We always bring you in because I don't always have a familiarity with another roster besides the Warriors, and I do try as best I can. You mentioned Jake Withers, a name I haven't followed a lot. So let's talk a little bit about him, because we don't just want to talk about the Warriors and what they're going to do. I like to look at the opposition as well.
Yeah, and this is a first place versus 8th place game, but Halifax is an amazing 8th place team, and they play Vancouver very tight. If you go back in history, these two teams have split their season series ever, all time, 2-2. The home team has won every time, but Jake Withers is a special lacrosse player. And you know, when you compare him to like a Max Adler, Vancouver's face-off guy, or Alex Stathakis, or even like a Trevor Baptiste in San Diego, Jake Withers is not your typical face off and then go and get off the floor kind of guy, and they're scared to put him on defense like a lot of face off guys are across the National Lacrosse League. Jake Withers could stand on his own as a full-time defenseman, or maybe even defensive player of the year type kind of guy. Like, he is a mean, grizzled defender, and he scores goals. He scored 2 goals in the game before he came into Vancouver. Those were his first 2 of the year. But he's such a weapon, able to win faceoffs, turn it immediately into transition, and then turn it into offense. It's he's a real special breed, and then he doesn't get trapped on D. Like, this guy plays full defensive minutes and mean, nasty defensive minutes. He's a cross checker. He's a chirper. He's everything you want out of a D guy. But he'll also, on most nights, win you 70% of faceoffs. So he's kind of a real special player in the National Lacrosse League. Adler did a good job against him 2 weeks ago. He held them to under 50%. Only the 3rd time that's happened to him all year. He'll do homework, though. Like, the guy is a lax rat and a film rat, and he'll figure out what he can try to do against Adler this weekend to improve those numbers for sure.
Yeah, and let's look at some other bits of I shouldn't say bits of the roster, but let's look at who's going to start in goal. I mean, we've got Justin Getty on this roster, Drew Hutchinson, and Warren Hill. But obviously, part of the way that Halifax team started and the way that game started a couple weeks ago was, in my impression, I was trying to find some stats, and you probably have, the play of Warren Hill as well.
Yeah, he's an unreal goaltender. And when you look back at his season, as we were crunching numbers for this game, it's been a roller coaster. Like, he had an amazing December. He started hot. He had him and the team in general didn't have a great middle of the season, really. Like, January through March, this team was not great. And Warren Hill was part of that. But then when it mattered the most in April, his save percentage went through the roof again. Like, his 2 best months were December and April. And so that went just like this, but he could be peaking at a really good time. And he's a volume goaltender. Like Vancouver, they really packed it in against the Warriors a couple weeks ago, and that means they need to increase their volume. They put 60 shots on him. It was the most he's seen all season long. It was the most that Vancouver had put up. So they wanted to wear him down kind of with volume because he was seeing the ball so well. And I expect no different really this Friday.
Yeah, I was trying to remember, and I'll look it up, but you probably remember. What did that game end up? 9-8 Vancouver?
Yeah, it's 8-7 Vancouver. And the only time that they led, Ben, was the game-winning goal.
That's right. Yeah, no, I have notes here about that. I couldn't get there until a little later, and I was trying to I always get my notes running for every game in my phone, and I had second quarter Warriors Thunderbirds. Halifax makes it 4-1. Then Dixon gets a goal, another Warriors goal, another Halifax goal, another Dixon goal, another Halifax goal. Then we're into the third quarter of that game, no score. And then obviously 4 Warriors goals and 1 Halifax goal.
Yeah.
So interesting, right?
Yeah. And if you remember that night too, like it was a special, Jesse King was hitting posts. He was getting looks and he was just kind of chipping away. Shot wasn't falling until it needed to in the fourth quarter. And that's just the kind of player he is. Like he's not going to let a cold streak in his stick bother him. He's going to keep shooting, shoot till you're hot. And luckily for the Warriors, he scored 4 in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I was going to say to you too, and this just may sound a bit obvious, but maybe not to a lot of people following, is the play of Keegan Ball. We can get into some of his stats this season, but also I've said this to you too, and I think I've said this maybe at the beginning, or I've said it to other people. The effect of Keegan Ball's play. This is his best season statistically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but how much King and Dixon have helped make Ball a better player?
1,000%. Like Baller was always elite of the elite, but he needed a supporting cast. And I think I was the first one. I think I was on a podcast before the season. Someone asked who's going to lead the Warriors in points. And I said Jesse King. I'm like, he's going to be their lefty quarterback. It's going to take the pressure off Keegan Ball to not have to carry as much. But what he had now was an elite supporting cast really for the first time in his career. And you saw him elevate. And a lot of his assists came off of Curtis Dixon's 40-something goals. A lot of his goals came off of Curtis Dixon assists. Like they just put themselves in such an elite two-man position that his points rose because Curtis Dixon was commanding attention, or he was feeding to the side of the floor and finding Jesse King, or Jesse King finding him as Keegan Ball was kind of getting better off ball this season too. Like he works so hard and he's so athletic. And I think he's kind of a special player too. He's very slippery to check, but he's not afraid of going to the inside and going to the hard areas of the floor. And a lot of superstar players don't like to do that. Like I compare him to Connor Fields, who doesn't like punishment and doesn't love going to the inside and going to the dirty areas to get his points. Keegan Ball doesn't care. He's right on top of the doorstep 9 times out of 10. And those guys really just they padded his stats this year for sure.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a few other things too, looking at some more Halifax stuff too as well. Looking at some guys on offense that stand out. Who else stands out for you on that offense? I mean, we've got Randy Stats, we got Cody Jamieson. Who else?
Yeah, they got Cody Jamieson's the grizzled vet. He's won 3 championships. He's 30. He was an 86er, I think. So like he's up there. That guy's 38, 39 years old, and he's still pushing, and he's going to play until his motor comes off. I don't think this is it for Cody Jamieson. A lot of people think this is trying to be his swan song, but I heard an interview with him this week, and like I don't think that guy's going anywhere as long as he's healthy, and he's healthy right now. He's played a full schedule, so he is still a really good lacrosse player. He's still really good at getting over the top and then coming down the middle and dropping that shoulder, and it's basically running back his way through the offense. Clark Peterson is a special player in this Halifax team. He's worth the price of admission as kind of their offensive righty top guy when Randy Stotts missed a lot of games to injury this year, and it's been Clark Peterson's kind of offense, and he's relished in it. Like he's still in his prime. He's got a great outside shot. He's fearless to the rack too. He's lethal shorthanded. Like he's a guy that can do everything on the lacrosse floor. So those kind of guys are the price of admission for me.
Yeah. So let's do some shifting now to the Warriors, because obviously 17-10 win against Philadelphia last Saturday, a 13-5 record to cap off the season. Just look at that here, the best season since when they were the Albany Attack in 2002, which is crazy. Just looking at some content from the Warriors site. And then obviously, we talked a little bit about Keegan Ball finishing the season with a league leading 124 points, which is pretty insane. But this obviously, one other thing I found interesting, what's your thoughts on this finishing first overall? I guess when it comes to the playoffs, that's not going to guarantee you anything.
Well, what it does guarantee you is home floor throughout. And I think that's
Right.
super important, especially for this team.
Right.
I think that it's a good notch in the it's a good notch in the cap. Like most teams are going to set like these small incremental goals throughout the season.
Right.
And I don't think anybody says let's finish first overall. A lot of people just want to secure a home playoff game. The kids are getting squirrely.
Yeah.
You get to secure the home playoff game, right? That's usually goal number one for a lot of teams. And then when they get closer to the end of the season, they go, wait a second, maybe we could try to get second or first. And I don't think Vancouver had their eyes on that or set that as a goal at all until late in the season when teams around them were starting to juggle around and shuffle around, but heck, they'll take it. And now it means that they're going to have home floor advantage as far as they go. There's not a team that will be able to take that away from them. And that could be a huge, huge thing when you get down the road. And especially in a league like this, where guys are comfortable playing in their own barns and playing in front of their friends and family and not breaking out of your routine and sleeping in your own bed. And I think that'll be a really big thing for Vancouver. Think about it. If they get into a 3-game series in a couple of weeks from now, we're not getting ahead of ourselves, but their next opponent, if they get past Halifax, is going to be Buffalo or Georgia.
Oh.
Right? So do you want to go to Buffalo twice? Do you want to go to Georgia twice if you have to? But no, they get to play in Vancouver twice, and those teams have to come all the way over to the West Coast. So it's going to be a big deal with games like that.
But also, I think what I was going to say to kind of play devil's advocate too with your last point is what was the Warriors' road record this season? I mean, they were road warriors, right?
Yeah, they played better away from Rogers Arena than they did, but I know that's a goal. Like that's an anomaly kind of stat. They had to go to Buffalo after a bye week, which is almost impossible to do. They got a win in Georgia already, which is again very hard to do. So there were some road games that they showed up in.
Yeah, and so I don't think we're going to make predictions on Friday's game before we look at the other games, or should we?
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I know you can't, but I can.
As Jake Elliott would say, who you got?
I don't even. Well, yeah, we should say hi to Jumbo too, whether he's watching or not, because he's been on the show. But I don't actually know. The immediate number that pops into my head is 15-10 Vancouver. So I'm going to stick with that.
I think that's a very generous score, very high scoring game for these two teams, Ben. I'm going to go. I think Vancouver gets it done, but I think they only get it done by like 1 or 2 goals. I think we're looking at a 10-8 game.
Okay.
I'll say that. I'll say Vancouver 10, Halifax 8.
And obviously Halifax playing them tight like they did last game. Right? So, but let's keep carrying on here because obviously Vancouver Halifax on Friday, because I said it when I sent out the info for the show that we're going to talk about the other games. The Buffalo Bandits and the Georgia Swarm. And the Buffalo Bandits, who looked like they weren't going to do anything. They're 4-10. They're not going to make any kind of comeback. They're not going to win a lot of games. And look what happened.
Yeah, what a season! Almost like their general manager. It wasn't really a threat, but he was very public about the fact that the trade deadline and that weekend that was going into it when they were below 500 was kind of going to determine the future. And they narrowly lost in Vancouver, which they were kind of okay with that loss. And there's good losses and bad losses. And they're like, hey, we top team in the league. We lost by a very narrow margin.
11-9 is what I remember.
Yeah, not a big deal for them, right? And then they won the next game, and then I don't think they looked back after that. So what a special run. Like everybody tried to count the champs out, and then they acquired Joe Resiteritz, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And what about, and I see this on social media talking about Brett Dobson. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
What's his name?
That's Brad. Just give me 1 second, okay? Okay, so I never see enough Georgia Swarm. I know nothing about Brett Dobson, and I see a lot of stuff on social media about what's been happening there. What's been happening in Georgia this season?
He caught lightning in the ball. Like he's a great young goaltender.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, they're kind of like, I don't know if you remember the way that Albany was a couple years ago when they went to the finals with a bunch of rookies in the lineup and no one expected they'd be there. Kind of similar vibes around Georgia this year, not because of Dobson, but because of all the young pieces that they have on offense and defense. Like they're a young team and they're supposed to be building for something. but they pressured teams really well. They were very athletic and fast on the back end and just very young and sleek and very clean Georgia Swarm lacrosse. And Brett Dobson was just seeing beach balls all season long. Yeah, he's a highly touted young goaltender. He's not, after this year, he'll be talked about as one of the top 3-5 in the league. But coming into this year, it wasn't like Del Bianco, Vince, Ward, Dobson. No one kind of knew, but now he's in that conversation. It was a special year. I think it was a lightning in the bottle kind of year, like just set the records that he did in save percentage and goals against average and all the numbers that he put up. That's a lot of those are team numbers, but it was a special year. People didn't know what to expect from the Georgia Swarm team, but this league adapts, this league studies, and I don't think you're going to see that from him year after year smashing these records. I think this was a special year, but he will remain an elite goaltender. And then you look at the goaltending battle in this matchup, and you got Dobson, who's fresh, young stud this year, doing the things that he did, going against the greatest of all time. So you kind of got vets versus youth.
Yeah,
I think the vets pulled this one out just based on the three-peat and their experience and what they've been through. But it's not gonna be another high-scoring game. That'll be another low-scoring slugfest, I think, just like the Vancouver Halifax game.
Okay, and then obviously moving on, we've got San Diego and Colorado.
This is an interesting one too. Like any other year, these teams have had some battles in the past, especially in like the Dobie Dixon era. There's a lot of cross-pollination, Ben, because when the Seals were launched, they used sort of the template that what made the Mammoth successful. They took Steve Govett over there, who was their original president. They took dude who I forget his name is, right?
Curtis Dixon, or no, they had
an office guy that they took with them to kind of help launch the team. I was saying, like, there was a lot of similarities when they launched the Seals. They sort of modeled themselves after the Mammoth. So there's a lot of sort of like storylines that went there, kind of like the baby mammoth going against the real mammoth, and then the roster that they assembled and the super team that they had there for a couple of years that Colorado kept bouncing from the playoffs. So there's some history there. Those rosters have seen a lot of turnover, so it's not the Seals mammoth that we saw a couple years ago going head to head in the playoffs, but still, I think that's a rivalry game. I think those two teams don't like each other very much. I think they match up really well, but Colorado, what a sneaky year they've had with their offense and their goaltending too. So that's going to be a tough out for San Diego. I think Colorado Mammoth are rolling right now and looking really sharp.
Yeah, and obviously we're going to talk a little bit more lacrosse here because we're going to wrap it up with that last year's Toronto versus Saskatchewan. And if I had to be honest with you, I think I said to you I have to go back and listen to that episode we did. I think a lot of us, including me, depending on, and I can't remember exactly what point in the season, had Saskatchewan first and Saskatchewan winning.
Yeah, they were 10-1.
Yeah.
And when Teddy and I called that game last week, we talked to head coach Jared Keener. We're like, what's wrong with this team? What's going on recently with this slump?
How did you take that?
He couldn't put a finger on it. He said, I wish I knew. He said, I wish I knew, and I wish I could put a finger on it. And that, the more I've sort of reflected on that comment, the more kind of concerning I think that gets, because it's not obvious. It's not like, hey, our goaltending sucks, or we're not getting enough scoring. It's like all these little things that are just compounding. It's like late giving away leads. It's bad penalties at bad times. It's not scoring power play goals when they need to. Like, it's little things that they're not very sharp heading into the postseason. I think that game last week was, they were lucky to get out of there with the win. They showed a lot of heart in that fourth quarter in front of their fans, but they scored 2 6-on-5 goals to get to overtime, and then overtime flip a coin. So I think their 5-on-5 is still a little rusty and maybe complacent heading into the postseason. And if Toronto gets Mark Matthews back in that lineup, then look out. It's tough to beat a team 2 weeks in a row. And so I think the worst case for Sask was drawing Toronto in the playoffs and getting them to come home to play against them.
And what happens with a team like the Rock? Because I remember what they were like a couple of years ago, and obviously Nick Rose is in goal. Then he goes to Calgary, looks like he's back in Toronto. But that Toronto team a couple of years ago, they played Buffalo in the finals, and then seems like things fell off a bit there, and now it seems like they're back.
Yeah, they've had some turnover, and I think that they weren't expecting the year that they had last year when they got off to that slow start. And then credit Jamie Dawick, because he rented out a bunch of players to get a bunch of draft picks, and now he's got 4 of the top, I'd say 7, 8, definitely the top 3. My top 3 rookies are on that team, plus Hugh Kelleher, who's a really strong rookie too, who's played 17 games or played all 18 games this season, which no one saw coming really too. So they've got a young crop mixed with Nick Rose, who, like Warren Hill, is kind of a streaky goaltender, but he's like at his upper echelon right now.
Mhm.
And then they've got a veteran proud decor. They've got all the ingredients, man. Like, I'd be really scared if I was going up against the Toronto Rock on that side of the bracket.
All right. Sounds good, Brad. Thanks for doing this. Good to see you as always.
Yeah, you as well. We'll see at how are you taking in the game this weekend?
I will be in my season ticket holder seats.
Nice.
Down
Enjoy.
in section 110. We'll talk to you
Enjoy.
soon.
Okay,
Thanks,
enjoy.
Brad.
Nice to see you, Ben.
Take
Okay.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.